Islamic State fighters in Syria's capital have seized the massive Yarmouk refugee area in South Damascus, clashing with anti-government Palestinian militias at the same time. Well, this is the latest video to have emerged from the area, which is thought to house around 18,000 Palestinian refugees. The United Nations has called for an immediate halt to the bloodshed. It's feared that ISIL now controls most of this compound, reasserting the extremist group's power then. With me now to talk about what's happening here, political analyst Ala Ibrahim. Ala, thanks for being with us. How significant is this latest Islamic State advance, which of course brings the militants now just a few miles from the centre of the Syrian capital, of course?
Actually, 6.4 kilometers from the city center of Damascus, we now have an effective ISIS presence in that area. We should mention that the Yarmouk refugee camp has been under rebel control since December 2012, and it has underbeen the control of two rebel factions, Aknaf Bayt al-Maqdis and the Nusra Front, the affiliate of Al-Qaeda in Syria. Two of them have very radical Islamic ideologies, but nonetheless, the presence of ISIL has a political significance because it's the first time we have seen a stronghold for ISIL or ISIS so close to the Syrian capital, Damascus.
Why this Yarmouk camp particularly?
Yarmouk has been the closest point the rebels has ever got to the Syrian capital, Damascus. If we look at the geography of the place, areas around the Yarmouk camp, which were all under the control of rebels, have recently, in the past few months, have signed settlements, or the Syrian government calls them national reconciliation agreement between the Syrian government and the local rebel factions in these areas. And as a result, the Syrian government has fortified its presence south of Damascus and further secured the perimeter of the capital. The only real chance to achieve a breach in this perimeter of Damascus is through Yarmouk camp. The Syrian government has been avoiding attacking Yarmouk camp because it knows it's many estimates say between 15 to 20,000 Palestinian refugees live in that area, so it would be a political embarrassment for the Syrian government if it carries attacks there, and surely civilians would die as a result of these attacks. So I think they decided to avoid the camp, which created a weak point in their perimeter around the Syrian capital, Damascus. Also, there's another development that comes into play, the fact that the Nusra Front, which is very strong in the camp, wanted to fortify its positions against the other rebel factions, so it brought in ISIL in a rare alliance between the two radical organizations, hoping to prevent any local rebel factions from signing any agreement or agreeing with the Syrian government to surrender or give the camp back to the control of the Syrian government.
Ala, logistics of what's happened aside, what's it going to mean for these many thousands, as you've just been saying, of refugees inside this camp? What's it going to mean for their safety and security?
Well, they don't live in a very good situation to begin with. The camp is completely dependent on aid, on humanitarian aid delivered to the camp by monthly basis by the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, and by the Syrian government. So the situation in the camp is very bad to begin with. There's an infestation of diseases.
Are they safe in ISIL hands?
No, they're not safe in ISIL hands, but they were not safe in the first place when they lived under battling rebel factions, including the affiliate of Al-Qaeda in Syria, Nusra Front.
Ala, thanks for your thoughts there. Appreciate it. Ala Ibrahim, political analyst.